Well, hello, everybody. Welcome into Wednesday's episode. It is October 1st, and the U.S. government has shut down. Dun, dun, dun. So, what does this mean? Well, you can go watch specific videos out there or read about what specifically has happened, but I want to talk in brief about what has happened. So, briefly, what has happened is that the U.S. government has not come to an agreement on the budget of spending the money across the government. And so, because of that, they have said, you know what? We will just pause. We will stop what we're doing until we can come on to an agreement. And I want to say that really what this has done is it's allowed the government to continue to do what the government loves to do, which is point fingers at other people. And I want to break this down a little bit more, but I very much encourage you, like I do with every episode, to go do your own research and to go find out your own information. I will warn you though, it'll do nothing but make you more and more mad unless you are a member of the government, unless you're a member of Congress. So, in short, government ran programs like TSA, DMVs, BMVs, if you're in places like that, like places where government workers are established, run the risk of shutting down and either A, not working completely, or B, their pay might be delayed. Or some sort of variation of the both. They're essentially classified as essential or non essential workers, and non essential workers will have disruption, where essential workers will not have disruption. But keep in mind that this was voted on by the government, and every single person who voted on this will continue to collect a paycheck. Every single person who made the decision that the government will shut down and could affect people working in this country's paycheck, those still make their money. Now, I want to say that members of Congress, senators, and representatives make on average around $174,000, and the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, they make closer to 200, and in some cases over $200,000 a year. This is their salary. They will continue to comfortably make that money while getting to go on their Twitter accounts and their Instagrams and their YouTubes and wherever they go and blame the other side. And really, that's all it ever is. It's a reason for Republicans to blame Democrats and Democrats to blame Republicans, because it's so easy to just blame. Now, I don't want to talk too much about this because I'm not fully aware of all of it, but I will talk about, because I'm reading a book right now which sort of speaks on this topic, where it's easier to just blame someone than to take accountability, right? There will be nobody who says, hey, you know what, this kind of stinks, this sucks for the American people, and leave it at that. Everyone will say this sucks for the American people because the other side couldn't come to their senses, right? Democrats are dumb, Republicans are spineless. These are all it's Donald Trump's fault. These are all things that I'm seeing people say. And although to a degree some of that could be true, the reality of it is that us as American people need to look at it and say, this is not Republicans or Democrats' fault. This is the government failing us as people. Gosh, I just got a flash of like I'm like some guy in a hidden bunker. All I'm saying is that this is the government failing us as people, right? Because, well, the people who made this decision will continue to get paid. The people who don't think twice about the repercussions of everybody are just going to blame the other side, right? These people who have these jobs who are already living paycheck to paycheck are going to go out and they're not going to be able to keep their house this month. They're not going to be able to keep their car payment, to get their food. And I know that's an exaggeration of how sometimes people talk, but that's the reality of it, right? The reality of it is that it's so easy for Congress people, representative people, to vote to make these government shutdowns when their salary paid well over the average of the normal Americans, well over the above average Americans in this country. So it's so easy to make that decision. And it's even easier to just be like, hey, it's not us, guys. It's the other side. It's the other side's fault. It's not us. We did our best. Figure it out. Figure it out. because blaming the other side will not fix anything, will not change anything, and will not do anything. So do your job, figure it out, and stop playing around with American people who are going to be affected by this. Speaking of American people who are affected by things, I do want to give a shout out to Donald Trump here. Hey, shout out Donald Trump and the presidency, because I think he did something pretty cool yesterday, which I don't think is really talked about because it's too busy being overshadowed by the government shutting down. But Donald Trump announced a $50 million increase in the research that's going on with child cancer. I heard a very, very sad statistic today that over 15,000 kids a year from the age of 0 to 19 are diagnosed with cancer each year. And that kind of sucks. And obviously, it made me sad when I thought about it. I think it's something that is devastating. It's something that no parent wishes for. And I can't even imagine to understand the struggles of how dealing with that sort of thing is. I hope I never have to be honest. But I can't even imagine the strength and the struggling of those parents and those kids. And so Donald Trump, he signed an order yesterday that also allowed. He allowed $50 million extra, which brings the total to $100 million a year in child research on cancer, which I think is really cool. He also has signed some executive order that is now going to allow the increase of AI usage, which I think is a little bit of a danger field. I'm not really sure how I feel about AI helping with things like that. It was talked about as in maybe being used to help with like mathematical side of it, which I guess is kind of cool, right? That's the side of like what I think us as the human side would need help with. But as far as like if you were to go to Chat GPT and say, how do I cure cancer? I don't think that's what they're using it for. But it was actually the the woman, I'm drawing a blank. I know it's Stephanie McMahon. I believe that's what it is. The WWE daughter, who's actually married to Triple H, was talking, and I encourage you to go watch the video of Donald Trump talking about this. Now, if you're not a fan of Donald Trump, okay, you don't have to watch when he's talking because he does talk a lot. But listen to the kids, listen to the parents, listen to Stephanie's speech, listen to how these people are talking about it. And to me, you watch it and you're like, this is sort of what we want to see. We want to see more fights on stuff like this. We all can agree cancer is bad. We all can agree cancer on children is terrible. So I encourage you to watch that. It's a little tear jerky at some points when they talk about some of the stories. But overall, I think that's a positive thing, and I think it's a good thing, and I think it's important that you are fully complimentary of things that are done good. I think when things are done well and things are done overall good, it's important that both sides acknowledge it. Unfortunately, that's not how Congress runs it. That's not how the government wants to do things. But I think us as Americans, we can do that. And I think as people who are not senators or representatives or speakers of the house or whatever, when we're not forced to be so one side, we have our beliefs, we have our opinions, but then I think it's important that we acknowledge things like that. So I think it's interesting that that's happening. I think that's pretty cool. One more thing about Donald Trump is he said the other day that Hamas has about 3 or 4 days to respond to the Gaza proposal. This is the proposal that Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump talked about earlier in the week, where they met. It was a 20-point peace treating, essentially. He asked if there was room for negotiation on the proposal. He replied, not much. So again, that means there's like maybe a little, but he's also not a big fan of wanting to negotiate. He also said somewhere in here, he said that if Hamas and Gaza do not accept this deal and do not plea, it'll be a very sad end to the war. And I think that's true. And I think that's sort of where it's at, especially off the back of the Ukraine-Russia deal, how he couldn't get that done as quickly as he wanted. I think he sees this as an opportunity to end this. And unfortunately, he's going to try to end it relatively quickly. Another thing that was talked about before the government shutdown was Pete Hegseth's address to the military people. Pete Hegseth is the what is he, the Secretary of War, I think it's called. And so he addressed the U.S. military the other day, and he talked a little bit about some of the things that are going to change. Number one, he talked about how there's no longer going to be long hair or beards in the military. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know if that's really something we needed to get up on a podium and be like, "All right, listen up, America. No more beards." Like, I don't understand that aspect of it. One thing he did say that was interesting was he talked about how the fitness regimen is going to change now for women and men in the military. And he said that it'll be a sort of standard right now. There will not be a differential between women's and men's standards. It'll just be the standards. And when he talked about this, and when you hear it, the first thing you think of is like, oh, no brainer. Like infantry, like you're at the front line, like you don't want someone who can't lift a heavy rifle or a heavy piece of wood or a tree that falls on someone or things like that. But here's, after doing a little bit of research into it, the standard for infantry and combat, people in the military has always been the same. There has not been a difference between men and women. So I started to think like, well, then what else has changed? And as far as I can understand from what I have done research into, it becomes things like special operations support, logistic personnels, people who are maybe not on the front lines but are in the battlefield, things like operate in tanks, operate in refueling stations and things like that. I feel like, again, that is such a, I don't know enough about it to say one way or the other if I think it's good or bad. I think it's good to have the highest standard possible. I don't think it should be something like, if your job requires loading missiles into tanks or loading heavy machinery, I don't think there should be an exception because you're a woman. I think it should just be the standard to do it. It's sort of been something that he has talked about a lot. Pete Hegseth has talked about a lot, is he said, that he wants that standard to be risen. And so I do agree that there should be a high standard, but I don't necessarily know why this is the big talking point of the military. I mean, I think we should just be getting the best of the best people. There were some other things he mentioned about DEI, about too many generals, and there's going to be cuts and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it was a pretty boring speech. I mean, I'm all for the military and I'm all for improving standards and stuff, but it was it was a tough watch to. I don't know what it is about him. Something about him just sort of, he doesn't control the room like a JD does, or obviously a Donald Trump. He doesn't really control the room that he speaks in as well as I think someone you'd want to see in that. But anyway, those are the stories I wanted to talk about. Now I want to have some fun because I've been getting a lot of comments on my Erica Kirk slammed, Serena cries victim, and Crowder fails at comeback video. Now, look, here's the thing. I do think some of these comments are bots, so I won't go through all of them. I do think some of the comments are from people who perhaps do not know the English vocabulary very well. At least I'm hoping so, because if these are coherent Americans typing these comments to me, then I think our future is bleaker than it thinks. But anyway, I want to read some of them and then respond to them. So D Brown Wayne 3134 says Crowder is quite alive and well, which I don't know where I said he wasn't. I was just saying that he was on Rumble. There's a big theme to these comments, which is like the impression of me hating Crowder, which is not at all what I was trying to say. I just, as I say in some of these responses, if you want the face of your political side to be someone who calls for fear, I don't necessarily think that's the person we want to have as our fear. Here's another comment in regards to Erica Kirk and how long to mourn. How much time is enough time to you? It certainly isn't 2 weeks. 6 months? Maybe. 1 year? Sure. 2 years? Of course. But to see her having a beaming smile and attitude after 2 weeks? Nah. So again, that's someone who is very clearly thinking and not responding to the point of the biblical side, right? That's someone who you can just tell right away with that response is not someone who has read a Bible or who has any sort of religious belief, because as I mentioned in the video, there are tons of things in the Bible that are give you reasons to sort of move on a little bit quicker than the average person. It's interesting that 2 years. So 2 years is the mark according to this guy, that hey, if your husband gets murdered in front of you and you forgive the man who did it and you are very deep in your faith, don't you smile. Hold that smile off for 2 years, and then and only then are you going to be allowed to have a beaming smile and attitude. Another comment. This is there's a lot of comments that are close to my favorite. I think this one is probably my favorite because the mental gymnastics this guy did to watch my. I'm assuming he didn't watch my video, but if he did watch the entirety, really, let's just say he watched any point of my video and then came to this conclusion. This jerk is just baiting people. He created this channel to troll Charlie Kirk mourners. He's not a Christian, just a trolling Antifa lover. Like, I apologize for the laughter. I don't know how you can watch any part of my 15-minute video and think that I'm baiting people. I'm anti Charlie Kirk mourners, and I'm just trolling people. And I'm gonna be honest. As of right now, all right, get close. As of right now, I don't think I even really know what an Antifa is. Like, what is? I know it's like the anti. It's like the left calls the right fascists and the right calls the left Antifa lovers. But I don't even know if I really know what that is. So I don't know how I could be that. But no, I mean, anyway. So we're just talking about the comments there. I think my mic might have cut off there for a little bit. But there's so many comments that are like that, and it's just the biggest takeaway. Was that I'm actually looking at it right now and I'm seeing there are more comments on that. I actually really like this one too. This is one. Uh, this is sort of wait. Is there? Did I get? I think a lot of it are bots. I'm gonna be honest. I think I said that already, but I do think a lot of it are bots. And one of these comments is they've declared war on you and your faith is a luxury you can't afford. How long will it take? I mean, that's pretty powerful for a guy with 8 subscribers. But anyway, I thought that would be kind of fun to go over the comments at the end of my video. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Remember, it is very important to open up your Bible and get a little bit closer to God today, a little bit closer to Jesus. Have those important talks with him. Be kind to each other. Love each other. Forgive and forget. And I will see you all probably tomorrow.